from whichever angle you want to take, breaking down what ELDOAs are, and then we can talk about some of the application and hopefully by the end of it, some take-homes that maybe people can even try on their own as a little tester.
So ELDOA is an amazing technique that's very comprehensive, and it's a French acronym that stands for longitudinal osteoarticular decoaptation of the spine. Depending who you talk to, people say that that last S is actually for stretching or strengthening. They can be interchangeable. But that sounds like incredibly complex, and I don't really understand it. All it means is creating space. So what I mean by that is there are some joints, like the hip joint's a really easy example. It's a ball and socket. If I do the ELDOA for the coxofemoral joint, all I'm doing is this. I'm just creating more space in that joint. And so what happens is, so we have these vertebrae, right, that are stacked, and in between them are discs. And what happens throughout the day, when I sit in that chair all day, is that our spine gets compressed through gravity. And what we can do, I'm watching you, man. I'm watching you. And what we can do is, we've already talked about fascia in this podcast, is we can actually use those fascial chains to our advantage to create maximum tension in our spine in order to create what some call decompression. But in this case, we can do decoaptation, or create space in a specific joint. When you look at these things on the outside, and I'm sure you know this, like, they look like yoga poses, which is like, whatever, it's cool, it's not the end of the world. They look very easy, but if you have the intention that you have when you do the ELDOA, they're incredibly hard.
Yeah, co-signed.
There you go.
Because that was, for me, when we first did them, and I saw them demonstrate, I'm like, that's just an easy yoga pose. And then when we were walked through it, right, by like a practitioner like yourself, someone who's professional, understands it. Exhausting, yeah, totally. Surprisingly exhausting.
Yeah, and so what you're doing is like, let's take like T6, T7. I'm sure you did the one, right? Fingertips together, reach up to the sky.
Yep, overhead.
Right, yeah. So like the example of that is that we are creating as much tension as possible in the body. Yeah. But based on where our arms and our other limbs are located, is that we can actually focus on a specific junction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take T7 and I'm going to lock it.
So
and then
that's
T6.
Thoracic vertebrae.
Yeah.
7.
Sorry, yeah.
Thoracic vertebrae.
Yeah.
6. So for those listening, middle of the back, not the big thick ones by the pelvis, more in the middle where your spine can twist and rotate, but not your...
Correct. And so what we can do is we can lock the joint above, and then we're going to pull the joint, lock the joint below and pull the joint above to create space. And when that happens, we're actually creating a suction mechanism that pulls cerebrospinal fluid into the disc. So it actually can rehydrate the disc. The other thing is, if someone has a bulge or herniation, it can actually push the bulge back into place. Or it can help, right? Herniation is when the fluid is leaking. It can help push fluid back into the disc and help it heal quicker.
So if I'm the skeptic listening right now, has this been studied, proven, shown that like in real time, or is this an idea?
Let's put it this way. There are no like American universities that have done long studies on this thing. So you can't go online and say, did Nebraska University, what did they find on, like, you can't find that for sure. But like what I can tell you is, like, as I started my studies on this, my mom was sadly involved in a bad car accident. So she got some bulging discs in her neck. We put her through ELDOA. She saw Guy Voyer and boom, boom, boom. Okay, do ELDOA for these two vertebrae. She got another MRI 3 months later, and the disc was pulled back into place.
So I mean, that would suffice. Obviously, this is a one-off situation, so it's a little bit not as stringent. But so this person is going from having a bulging disc, so fluid is leaking from the disc. That's known, right? And then through doing this protocol, they obviously got to work with the creator, so that's a unique situation too. You're seeing the same